This is a Hot Pie Original.
Hi, and welcome to the Amy Edwards Show. I'm so glad you're here. I'm your host, Amy Edwards, and I'm really excited about today's. I know, I say it every time, and I catch myself, but I'm just excited, and I don't know, I'm loving doing this. Today, we're going to talk with East Forest, also known as Krishna. He is an incredibly talented music artist, and he did a project a couple of years back with Ram Dass. He shares about that. We just have a deep philosophical, not even really discussion. He talks and I listen, and it is mind-blowing and amazing, and I can't wait for you to hear it. So let's do this thing. I'm so glad you're here. What do I need to tell you real quick? If you haven't signed up for my newsletter, please do so. It's at amyedwards.com, and I will keep you up to date on what's going on with the show. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to our crew at Hot Pie. Let's do it. Hello, and welcome to the show. If you are watching this, you can tell I'm doing this from home today, and I'll tell you why in just a few minutes. So, I have been in Costa Rica, and I'm just excited that we got to record a live podcast there and talk with East Forest Krishna. He is the shit, man. I really just felt so blessed because it was one of those things that just fell into place. I knew I was doing a live podcast recording, and it just fell into place for him to be there. And he said yes, and we got to connect a little bit before it, and it just flowed. And he is the kind of person that can just blow your mind over and over. And anybody that was that close to Ram Dass too, it's very special to me. I love Ram Dass so much. I have since the first time I ever even heard Be Here Now. I have it tattooed on my arm, and I don't even think I told Krishna that. And I don't know, I just have always felt like a powerful some kind of call toward him and his work and everything that he put out there. And it's wonderful to hear. So big thanks to him for sitting down with me and to the crew that helped out, because it wasn't our usual Hot Pie crew. So thank you to everybody that was there. Mainly Jordan and Shane that really helped with the audio and the setup, gave me this beautiful setup that you'll see. And to Justin for recording the video to go with it. So anyway, just really super grateful and excited to bring you that. So I want to talk a little bit today about physicality, because I feel like I've been on this physical journey the last couple weeks, really, as we talked to Meg a couple weeks ago and about going easier on ourselves. And then I got to Costa Rica and I wanted to be easier on my body. And they had us write down our goal while we were there. And mine was about embodiment and embodying the things that I talk about, and just the word body being in it. One of the first things that came to my attention that I mentioned last week with Adrian, which that podcast is amazing too, if you haven't listened yet. I talked about this connection to our physicality and how, we discount it so many times, but we're not just a meat suit, right? We're not. This physicality. So I've been listening to something called Conversations with God, which is from 2006, but it is fucking mind-blowing. It's so good. And one of the things in there is that we have to have this physical experience in order to understand God, which I find fascinating. This is part of it, and we can't discount it. And as I wanted to feel that embodiment and understand this physicality and appreciate it more, appreciate all that my body does and not be so hard on it, of course, I was forced to do it in whole new ways. So number one, one of the first things that, I was going to read you my card. So my intention for the week was to feel more free in my own body, more appreciative of it, speaking, singing, movement, spiritually, to allow and accept it as beautiful, powerful, and as it should be, rather than coming from a place of fear and worry of how it will be received. And then on the back, I wrote free, embodied, speaking, movement, as the goddess, dance, singing, clothes, spiritually, energetically, laughter, light, shine, beauty, all that. And then, of course, my intention, my desire was heard. Of course, in ways I didn't even expect. Number one, one of the things East Forest and I, Krishna and I, we just jumped right in with our conversation and we started talking about ketamine because he has been doing ketamine infusions as well. And his amazing, gorgeous, incredible wife, Radha, who I highly recommend following both of them. And I hope to have her on the show sometime because she's incredible. So she does ketamine integration therapy. I hope I'm saying that right. And she's absolutely incredible. And we jump right in talking about ketamine and what it's done for him and what it's been like for him. And he talked about some experiences that he's had that just thrust him right into it. So I think it was maybe the next night. So I consider myself pretty experienced with ketamine because I've done the infusions at Illuma. I've had the nose spray. I've been on that track for like a year and a half. And so I was just going to do a little bit of it in Costa Rica. And instead, it hit me very hard and unexpectedly. And it affected my entire body in a way that I've never experienced. And I think it was probably what you could call a K-hole. And I was just forced into it suddenly and unexpectedly. And I felt irresponsible about it, but I had to surrender to it. And it was a heavy learning experience. And luckily I was with people that really didn't judge me. They helped me. And I mean, I couldn't walk at one point, and that was very scary for me. And luckily, Justin was there, my partner, and so he helped me, and I came through it fairly quickly. But I learned a very valuable lesson about being careful with it, and so I also just felt like it forced me out of my physicality and back into it in a way that I didn't expect. And then on top of that, with this goal of embodiment, I came out of Costa Rica and got COVID. And I was like, whew, wow. I mean, that'll force you into your physicality. And rather than taking it all as something bad, I tried to shift it around and be appreciative of my body and all that it's capable of. Getting well, healing itself, essentially. Yes, I took Tylenol, Advil. Someone gave me a doctor gave me a Z-Pack. I don't know if that does anything, and I slept a lot. And I'm so thrilled that I didn't give it to anybody else, like Adrian last week, and because that was before I knew I had it, and my children. But it just forced me to think about my physicality in a whole new way and this experience that we have going on in our bodies. And so I guess I just want to take it on the heels of, the 2 weeks ago, going easier on ourselves and our bodies in any way. And then talking about cold therapy last week and then having these things happen. And at the same time, we had a Morosco Forge cold bath delivered to our house by Adrian, and she walked me through a cold plunge. And so I've been doing these cold plunges every day, which are excruciating for me. Excruciating. I mean, I think it's a fine line between exhilaration and misery. When you think about a roller coaster, one person's screaming and one person's like having the time of their life. God, I mean, it is tough, but I feel good after. But it puts me into my physical, nothing else. So I feel like ask and you'll receive, right? I've asked to get more in touch with my physicality, and boom, I have. And so I don't know, I guess the lesson or whatever I'm trying to say here is simply, how can we pay attention and shift that a little bit and go kinder on ourselves and these meat suits and this physicality? Like, how can we look at it a little differently? How can we be more appreciative of all that it's showing us and all that it's bringing us and all that we're learning from it? So that's my thoughts about it today. I am so excited to move into today's interview, conversation, whatever you want to call it, mind-blowing philosophical talk from East Forest, known as Krishna. That name was given to him by Ram Dass. And I loved this talk so much. And I think that the how-to in it today was about how to love it all how to love it all. And that means it all. And he talks about us being cyborgs. He talks about just his own ketamine and psychedelic journeys, and it is fan-freaking-tastic. So thank you to Krishna. Thank you to Radha too for being there, and I can't wait for you to meet her sometime. So be sure and find him. He's at East Forest on Instagram, and his music too is at East Forest on Spotify. Highly recommended if you haven't listened to it. And it is available on vinyl. I also want to plug the oils that they make. They make these amazing smelling oils. They're unisex, I think, but I've been wearing them and I love them. I love that scent. And I love being able to smell because I did lose my smell for like 4 days. So anyway, let's move on to today's. And again, thank you to East Forest, Krishna, for being here today. So excited about this and to share it with you guys.
He's like, okay, so he just stands there, like holding the syringe, just kind of hovering. And I'm just like, ugh. And he finally put it in my arm. And in like minutes, it was like a freight train of energy that felt like the strongest psychedelic I've ever experienced in my life times a million.
Yeah.
Like, and I've been around the block a little bit I've been to the jungle. I've done, and it was just happening. And I was thinking to myself, what's happening? Like, oh, they clearly accidentally gave me a million times too much.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I don't think I'll die, but I just have to ride this out. And I just remember it feeling like it took on the clothing of like 5-MeO and ayahuasca and psilocybin and LSD and nitrous and MDMA. It's just all of it. So when you say, should you do it?
No,
I would say if you feel called,
but I haven't done that
intermuscular.
But I've done it the intravenous. I mean,
it's different. IV. It's different. Apparently, they're all different speeds and vibes.
Because 75 doesn't sound that much for from what I've done. I've done 150 or something like that.
But it's slow.
It's a slow drip.
Yeah, this is like mainline into your brain. And you don't have time to catch your breath. I mean, there were dimensional shifts happening I didn't know existed.
Like what?
It's unexplainable. Like it went, first you go into that psychedelic space where you're like, oh, okay, we're going to do this. Right? With all kind of that psychedelic threshold.
I have that sense right when it kicks in and I go, oh, fuck.
What have I done?
I'm in it. And I will come out, but here we go.
Yeah. So you cross that, but then it starts going even further. And this is happening very fast.
Yeah.
And then you're just thinking like, oh, wow. Okay. We're going to give up time. Okay. We're going to give up me. Okay. To go into death. Okay. Oh, what else is there? Oh, we're going to give up like concepts of like what this universe and dimension is. And then there's another one and then another one and then another one. And just like, so confoundingly strange and deep that it was, you're beyond concepts of even good and bad. Like it was challenging, but it was more just like I was shaking, the whole time.
How long did that last for you?
About 45 minutes an hour. Yeah. But I remember trying to think like of something to hold on to and I remembered numbers and I was like, oh, that's a thing in this universe that I'm from. And if I can remember how to like maybe count or something, that's a tether to
Holy shit. That went way further than I have.
I'm telling you, it was like beyond any ayahuasca journey I've ever experienced or anything else. It was like, so.
We're talking about ketamine if you're just joining. And
ketamine in the arm.
And so why did you, we're recording and we're in Costa Rica and I'm thrilled that you're here. Why did you even do it initially to
anxiety?
So tell me.
I had heard that it works really well for anxiety and depression. But here's the thing.
Yeah, it's supposed to work really well for anxiety and depression.
The next day was my birthday. And
when was this?
July.
Oh.
And I had all these plans. Mm-hmm. And I had to cancel everything. My brain was so broken. I was angry. Like I couldn't come back. I was just like, it was so broken apart. I couldn't just like come back. So it was like everything got canceled and so forth. And then as the days progressed though, then I realized I was feeling better than I'd ever felt in my life. It was like a complete reset.
Well, it's supposed to reset your neural pathways, right?
Well, Radha would know better than me. But
where's Radha?
She went to...
There she is.
Yeah. So I've noticed since then that it can be really powerful for me in lowering the temperature on how I feel like reacting to things, So, the stuff happens and I still am dealing with it. I'm still not pleased about it, but I'm not really like looping about it or worked up about
Right,
it.
that's
Just
what it does.
in my body.
It wipes those little loops off. At least that's what I used it for my ruminations.
It's
And
pretty amazing.
It is amazing. But I guess like people think of you as pretty evolved already.
I'm not evolved. Yeah. There's many projections.
It is.
She thought when she met me that she's like, oh, he was like a vegan, nothing wrong with vegans, and I doesn't drink and all this stuff. And I'm like, was holding a beer and was like, of course. Yeah, of course. I play the music to assuage my own foibles and problems, quite literally. And so,
okay. So your hat says plants before pills. So do you have an issue with ketamine not being a plant-based medicine?
This was given to me.
Oh, it was a gift.
Yeah. No.
Like, I didn't even know it said that on there.
Shout out to Ned. Thanks for the hat and the CBD oil. No, not really. I mean,
some people do, I think.
I personally don't, but I don't. I think, that discussion about synthetics and plant-based is interesting, maybe just because of the alkaloids that you're missing. I mean, I think it's, at the end of the day, chemistry is chemistry, and we're messing with our spacesuit chemically all day long with mostly food and sex and dopamine and phones. So that's all we do all day long.
Right.
Is we ride the waves of different like titration. And like I'm hankering for a cerveza right now. And I feel that itch, and then there's just another itch.
I had it when I landed in Costa Rica. I was like, beer. I felt it.
I think it's the heat. Yeah,
maybe.
Oh my God. This is a rattler nonetheless. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Well, so if you say it's gotten better, gotten better, the after the ketamine journey, so you did it for the anxiety. What was going on with you anxiety? I'm really curious.
We did 4 sessions.
And I'm curious about transformation and what happened. So we did a series of sessions, and I think, correct me again if I'm wrong, it seems to be around 3 to 4 within a few weeks and that's a lot.
More than like one, but this was a big one. The others were actually beautiful and mellow, and then I didn't do it until recently again. So it lasted like up till the new year, and then I started realizing like, man, I'm just feeling kind of stressed, really overwhelmed and stressed. From
what? Just like COVID, everything.
And there's just a lot. I have so many things going on. It's just like, and I have a tendency to be involved in everything, and just want to and I'm in between management. I left my management in early, right the same weekend the lockdown happened. And so I've just been kind of doing a lot, you know what I mean? And it's been a really great year of lots of things happening, but it's just like, how it is with everybody. There's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
And it just felt like a lot of pressure to not let things slip by.
You have to pay attention to your mental health.
Yeah. So the ketamine, I thought I'd go back and try it again and see if it would help, because I thought maybe the first time was a fluke. And we just finished probably 3 weeks ago. I did 3 or 4, and it helped again.
Yeah.
Like it was amazing. I was like, wow, I feel so grounded. And I noticed that this isn't really scientific, but when I was feeling really good, like things were just going really well. Like opportunities and things, like deals. And I'm just like, okay, what's up with this? Why?
That's what they say. The better we're feeling, then the more things we're attracting that are in that feeling.
Yeah. And like I say, it could just be me seeing those signs, but it certainly felt that way. And
I don't know.
You're surfing
working on
better,
that.
you know? It's like you're just like you've waxed your board a little better.
Yeah.
And, you know, the waves are still, I don't control those waves, but I feel like I was like, oh, I just remembered how to surf better.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
You waxed your board better.
Yeah.
But-
little sex wax.
But I think that, I mean, I don't know. I've been listening to a lot of Abraham Hicks, and she or he or they say that like the more that you're operating in this vortex of feeling good, then the more that you're pulling that to you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think? You're proving it.
I would think so. I mean, I think the secret is missing part of half the picture, and it's sort of like the sugar-coated answer in a way. And so I don't think it's as simple as you kind of just attract it to you through like, you know, I manifest my reality. But I do think that is half the picture, and that you are choosing like the stars you want to navigate by.
Mm-hmm.
You are picking the direction you want to go. And that course that you're choosing is critical and fundamental to the creative aspect of being a human being, is saying, I'm going to go that way. You know, in essence, metaphorically, like I'm going to do whatever it is I'm going to do, what choice I'm going to pick. And then just like sound waves or water waves, you know, you've put that pebble into the lake that creates these ripples, and it hits all the other things, all the other choices and cause and effect in the universe, and creates ripples back. And that's the feedback of life. And so that's your participation in it. But that's different to me than saying it's a me world that I'm just like, you know, deciding what I'm bringing to me in a way. I mean, does that make sense to you? Like the nuance between that?
Yes, it does. And actually, I love the way you put it, because I've been trying to just make sense of it in my own head lately. Like how does it make sense? Like, and you know, that whole thing about like really feeling it and all that. Well, we always have things coming up that are like the anxieties and all that, you know, and how to navigate around those or deal with them the right way, even.
Ram Dass really changed my perspective on this, because I think that when he spoke about the idea of loving your dark thoughts, for instance,
mm-hmm.
which is a profound shift from trying to push them away. It's sort of like a child that's going through a tantrum. Really, the only way to work with them is to hold them, you know, or the witnessing and the patience. And we do that with ourselves, because what I have been enjoying is giving up more on trying to control, and instead of changing my mind, I just like to witness it and love it.
Yes.
It's like, I'm not here to ameliorate my dark thoughts or transcend my ego. Like, I think that's actually a trap.
Yeah. I do too. And actually, I've been on the train of loving the whole, because it's all part of the whole, the light, the dark, or whatever you want to label it. I'm not even into labeling it as much anymore, because I just think that takes us down a path of calling it bad or something like that, you know, and I don't want to call it bad. I just want to say that's the whole, and I love every part of it. And if I can love every part of it, the darkness or whatever we want to call it, loses some of its power.
And it's also, but it serves a purpose.
Yeah.
You know, we're here again. Ram Dass was told, you know, you're here on campus Earth. Like, why don't you take the curriculum? It's like, we're meant to be human. The friction we feel of the challenges of life is the point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the thing to be avoided. It's just how much we attach to it. You can't change it. And moreover, it's like, if we were just here and it was completely bliss and there was never anything wrong, we'd essentially be in soul land, where we're just these amorphous, perfect, right? There would be no point other than God being God. But if God wants to experience God, you need to have something to push against, that friction of choice and cause and effect. And that way we can have experience, and it doesn't make it any easier, and it doesn't diminish the suffering, but it gives value to the suffering. It gives, you know, a way to kind of like loosen the grip on everything that's happening. It's going to happen.
Yes, it is going to happen.
And that doesn't mean that your choices don't matter. And it's like, okay, so, that person's poor and that person's suffering and so be it. That's not what I'm saying. It's like, that is the mystery itself, the paradox that everything is perfect and your choices are totally critical and matter. It crosses through the boundary of making sense. I mean, that's why it doesn't make sense, because it's God. We're touching the thing that we can't know fully with our brain.
Did you see God more with Ram Dass? Did it give you more clear? I'm such a Ram Dass fan, like from way, way back. So
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
When we first kind of met and we were recording him and we set up mics and they shut the door and it's his study and it's very homey. And I think up until that moment, I kind of thought I had weaseled my way in, like tricked the right people. And when the door shut, I realized how valuable it was to be alone with him. I was like, oh, this is rare. Like there's always so many people around.
Yeah.
Even I'd been there a few times in the previous days. It was always a lot of people. So like, oh, it's just him. And then I kind of freaked out. So I'm like, this is like the spiritual White House, like, how did I get here? Oh shit. What do I do? And then he just like looked at me. I hit record and he just looked at me and we were just eye gazing. And he just like, fully present and fully just like, I don't know you, but just loving. And that was God. That was the gift. That was the whole thing. Everything else was gravy. And we just did that for minutes until I realized I probably should ask a question, because this would be the lamest album ever. Like, it's like a Marcel mind tape on audio or something. But that it was, and that was a gift, because you realize that any of us can do that at any time for anyone. Mm-hmm. It's not something you have to go to an ashram to learn or pay any money to take some course. You can do it in your next breath,
Damn right.
Yeah. And it's simple.
Do you feel his presence? Do you still or is it just associated with God? Like if you're meditating or something?
Well, his guru, Neem Karoli Baba Maharaji, was
he talks about on the album too.
Yeah. Who, you could think of him like a Buddha or a Jesus, someone who's sort of, there's not much person there. There's just loving awareness all the time, no matter how much you look. And it was someone that I'd never met, but I started to feel like more of a relationship with that being that preceded me. It felt connected, Mm-hmm. That's a longer story about just how that came into my life through divorce. And so now Ram Dass passed away within a few days of the last parts of the album releasing. And you would think like, oh, that's the literal and perfect denouement of this experience. It is the end. And that's okay. Like that's the end. It's like beautiful. But it didn't end there. It felt very alive since then. And the relationship I feel with Maharaji and Ram Dass feels alive in this moment. I don't mean that in a like a supernatural way. I just mean like I can't deny the evidence of watching the aliveness of that creation reverberate in the world that I don't feel is at all me anymore. It's just more like you make a little boat and you kick it out to sea and everyone writes you letters of people who run into the boat. Mm-hmm. It's just it is its own entity.
Yeah, it's a flow-on effect.
And so in that way, I feel very connected to Ram Dass and Maharaji. And in that way, I've always felt like in a form of communication in my own mind and heart, where I give myself over to something larger and ask to be guided. And I often feel guided. And I think the key to that lock is humbleness, and just saying, I don't know. And I appreciate the help, and I'm asking for help. That invitation is key.
Mm-hmm. Humbleness is a good word.
It's a good thing. It's good. Yeah. It's good medicine. If you don't feel humble, it's probably the number one thing to cultivate in your life, because Why?
Or if
how
you're
could
gonna
you?
get handed it
how
in
could
some
we
way.
not be humble? like we don't control anything or know anything, and most of us here, I would imagine, are incredibly privileged, probably in different ways, in our own ways, and that alone comes with the responsibility of humbleness. And any psychedelic journey will probably teach you that you really don't know anything in a way, like with a little K. And so it feels like the spiritual doorway. I heard someone say, it might have been Raghu Marcus, that in Indian, is it in Hinduism, the golden thread, golden chain is thought of as righteousness being the final and most important step to overcome on the spiritual journey. And I feel like the other polarity of that would be humbleness. That would be the way to work with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm weirdly reading. I think I was just looking for more Ram Dass not too long ago, and I ordered his book, Still Here.
Yeah.
Have you read it?
Not all of it, but I've gotten that book for several older people.
Yeah. Well, it's written for older people.
Yeah.
And so I ordered it, and then I realized, this is written for older people.
Yeah.
But I'm actually really enjoying the lessons in it because they are about humility, and they are about like how our society views older people, and like
it's about dying, essentially.
Not exactly. It's about more like as you get older, all the shit changes, and so how do you deal with that? And I'm getting a lot out of it, and I'm just surprised. But so many of them are lessons about that, because his body changed, and he doesn't even just talk about the stroke. He talks more about even when his body changed over time, and the screw just fell out. I don't know what that was. It's my necklace.
Yeah, it's halfway. Yeah, it's coming apart.
Yeah, my necklace is coming apart.
He got very, very old in the traditional sense. Like, by the time he was at the end, he looked like he was at the end. I mean, he looked extremely frail.
Yeah.
And he wasn't speaking, and he was just so close to the veil of the other side.
Yeah.
But he was beaming with presence.
Well, he talks in it too about the humility of, somebody else having to help you go to the bathroom, and just anything else that comes along in life, and just the lessons within all that. And I just thought it was interesting that even, he was able to share those, because we just take a lot for granted, and
yes,
humbling experiences are something that I'm constantly trying to learn from.
Yeah, well, and I think humbleness can be a choice, and I think that's the gateway in. It's just like I said, it's one of the things, the directions in this you choose, and the stars you navigate by.
Yeah,
it's not something, it can't, like you said, it can be handed to you and given to you forcefully. But
I think a lot of times it will be if your ego's like,
there's different flavors of ice cream. Yeah,
yeah.
But but I'm saying it's good practice, like to kind of exercise that through a mechanism of choice in any moment, and just sort of say, like, what does that lens feel like if I put it on right now, and I think it's a great teacher in itself.
Yeah. What are your practices all the time? Like,
cerveza, yoga, ice cream. No,
those are good. Ram Dass would approve of that, I'm sure.
No, my yoga is music and creativity and nature and relationship, good counsel. Those are probably the main ones for me. But music and creativity is not something that is only for people who are professionals. You know what I mean? I was
just talking about this with somebody else, and we were talking about when people say creatives or whatever, and then it's like, no, we're all creatives. We're all creating all the time. All of us all the time.
But quite literally, like it's a modern affliction that we pay other people to sing for us, or we think that, sure, someone can sing better, or as someone draws better and so forth. And there's nothing wrong with celebrating these things, but we're enjoying it. But everyone can sing.
Right.
I mean,
or make noises.
That is singing. And it probably feels good.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do it publicly. That's irrelevant. And so robbing yourself of like this thing that's inherently part of you, who you are as a human being, is a shame, because the act of creation is one of the things that makes us very unique as human beings.
Well, it makes us more like God, or make it actually, no, I'm sorry. That's wrong. It is that God that is within us. It is us as God.
I would argue that is one of the emanations of God seeing itself is like this. And that is what choice is, a form of creation, and creativity is all
choice is a form of creation.
Absolutely.
Choice is a form of creation.
It's a form of creativity.
Yeah.
It's all the same thing. And being able to exercise that muscle is so fundamentally part of who we are that if you're not doing it actively, like, you know, whatever your thing is, it could be a good conversation, it could be cooking, it could be free writing, it could be singing in the shower and building something. I mean, anything you want, gardening. If you're not doing that, you're not fully turning on your purpose machine, like your human spacesuit. And you probably feel a little sick. I do. If I don't tap into that, I literally get depressed. Yeah. And I realized over the years, like, what the recipe was for me and how I had to do it. Like that War of Art book, fantastic.
One of my favorites.
You know,
Stephen Pressfield.
So all that stuff is really important. And so everyone has that doorway within them. And, it's just to encourage them to find really what they enjoy. It's like whatever is fun, do that.
Yes, you're going to create.
Try not to make it a chore. But in the parlance of the War of Art, it is a chore. You will have to overcome the initial resistance to do it. And there'll be a million excuses. I don't know why this exists, but there'll be a million excuses to not do it. I got to check the email first. Well, I have these errands. Well, you know, it'd be really great just to take the shower and then it'll be a monkey on your back. And when I do it initially first, then the day has purpose. Everything else, like I've done the thing I'm here to do. It doesn't matter if it's public or private.
And that's a practice. That's what he says, you know, make the time you sit down. Forget the things that are urgent. Do the things that have to be done. I think he says, you know, because the bills and all that stuff is urgent or whatever. But
right. Yeah.
That's what you're doing. Essentially, you're making that a practice. I love that. Even as hard as it fucking is.
And I think there are many ways to look at like what creativity means to you. And it can be super flexible, but it's really important. It's really, really important. So that's, for me, that's probably my main practice.
I love it.
And I try to honor that and not like get lost in the business of life first, or.
I think that's what he means when he says the things that are urgent, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Well, so how are you doing post-ketamine? What's that bringing to you creatively?
It's just less attachment to like it's loosening the grip on my desire of the outcomes of things.
Ooh. Well, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Like
it's hard.
Letting go
it's hard
of the desire
to do.
of the outcome.
Yeah.
I mean, even though like I sat down with you and I was like, I was attaching to a desired outcome of having a good conversation or doing a good job for everybody that's here, for Brian, you know, for listeners of my podcast, you know, like I do have, but then at a certain point I have to just go, no, you just learn what you're supposed to learn in the moment.
Well, you have the intention. It's another way of saying choice of what you wanted it, you know, where you want to go.
Yeah.
But that's all you can do. Right. Yeah. And like, and so that's a hard thing to like turn it over. And especially when you have like things going on in your life that maybe there's certain things that you really, really want to go a certain way, or it feels like an opportunity or someone you really want to work out with, you know, you really do. And you're like, but I know that I really want that. So how can I loosen the grip? That seems crazy. Because then I want to do everything I can, but where's the line to where you're strangling it?
Yeah.
Or
forcing it.
Or you're in this weird delusion where all this flexing and gripping is actually it completely pointless and useless. So that is the anxiety. Like, that's what I would see in the ketamine in a sense, is it allows me to
and all that flexing and stuff is working counter to what you really want. Oftentimes, I think. Yeah,
I think it's probably counterproductive because ruminations in my head are just that. They're not necessarily it's the ego being a bit more of a master than
servant.
Well, I don't know if servant.
I don't think that's right either.
You know, a good friend, and so a teammate. You know, and I want, it's sort of, again, coming with that loving perspective, not saying like, oh, shut up or stop thinking that, or you need, it's like, oh yes, I'm so concerned about that also. And then you let it go. And I do it again, and then I do it again, and I do it again. But maybe I just notice sometimes in these post-ketamine sessions, I'm not doing it as much.
Yeah.
So it's less about me having to do a practice. It's just like, that's so interesting. There's something happening physically and chemically.
That's badass. If it just starts to happen without you having to make it a practice.
It is. No, it's still there, but it's just, the charge is so much lower.
Yeah. I've noticed that too. Like it shifted my brain, and I think I did like 6 last year, but I spaced them out fairly far, but it changed my brain enough to where I was thinking new thoughts, and just without having to make it a practice, without having to consciously be like delving into doing something new. It just naturally, my brain shifted into new ways of thinking or new ways of creating. And that surprised me. And it was really nice. Surprised me in a really good way.
Well, practice as a term, of like things you do
repeatedly
often to keep something in shape, right? So for me, that's a kind of creativity in music, among other things. And I think, but that thing in itself of having a practice and is key, because I think it's pretty rare that anything that was going to stick is going to just emanate from nothing and stay. It's like you have to bring that element of choice, and that's what practice is. And so kind of developing your own church of you in a sense is really important. It's kind of everything. It's like, hopefully as you get wiser, you start to just really understand what works for you and learn how to say no, and learn how to, like, I have to do X, Y, Z in this order at this time and these days for me to be able to, as you guys would say, be fit for service, like to do anything else. Like you don't want to just be a wounded healer out there that's sort of covering up your own wounds with your own malarkey
regimen and like a strict regimen or anything like that. Like I've gotten much softer on myself, I think, in the last year on that too, just to flow with it a little bit more.
Cerveza. Yeah. I mean,
have your
it's like,
beer
it's
if you
okay.
have your beer.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes I don't because it's not the right time, but,
why do you have a feather in your hat?
It's barely a feather now. That's a hawk feather from Utah. So we have some land down in southern Utah, and it's super Natureville, super remote. And I probably just reminds me of like that place that, it's like carrying a little bit of that with you. Yeah. It's a extremely humbling place.
How so?
Because you're not at the top of the food chain, like literally. And so when you go out, there's always the risk of death, and you have to pay attention like to the weather and the animals and where I'm stepping. And there's always the knowledge that like this could go sideways quick. And at the same time, it's the geological beauty of just billions of years. That's humbling. Like, wow, I cannot believe what I'm seeing right now. So, and then there aren't many people there who fucked it up. So it's like, it's been less sullied by man. We call it a raw land diet. And I find it very humbling from all the digital stuff. Do you get off digital stuff fairly regularly? Not so much. Me either. But, I mean, I'm trying. I should say, like, within my connection as a cyborg, I have a lot of control. Sorry, as a cyborg? Yeah. We're all cyborgs, quasi-cyborgs. What's the definition of a cyborg? We're just kind of a machine, human machine. Sure. This is a very clunky way of doing machine. No, that's right. And so that makes us a cyborg. Our phones. Yeah, it's the early stages. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. It's just the early stages. We'll look back and be like, I can't believe they carried around these things and they had to charge them. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. Just be in our arms or our brains or our eyes. I mean, the Neuralink is an existing thing, and it's I mean, I've talked to people who've talked about I'm not supposed to say, but they have like things they're developing for like in the retina, and they call it the chip and stuff, and they're doing it in Black Mirror. Yeah, it's a very prescient show, but you can take it's sort of like you can take breaks in all different ways. Maybe it doesn't have to be like a week or whatever. You know what I mean? Even just like one of my favorite things to do is to go on a walk with no keys, no wallet, no phone. which sounds like a big deal. And it's
No,
like,
that's
that's actually
like
like
a
a
lot.
radical act these days, you know, like, and it really energetically is a radical feeling. You
It
can't buy
is.
anything. No one can contact you. You can't contact anyone. And the keys thing, you just don't need them.
Yeah.
So you just feel like, wait, I'm just a human being. So it's easier to do down in Southern Utah
Mhm.
because the phone wouldn't work anyway. And it's nothing to buy and the keys are irrelevant. But maybe that's why I like it there, because those things are just off the table.
Yeah.
And so you have nothing to do but just like connect into this system around you that you quickly realize it's reflecting back to you what you are. You know, you are nature, literally. Like, we are constituent parts of the earth, walking and talking, making jokes,
Mm-hmm.
having ideas. We are it.
Yes.
And so it's when you break through that separation, it's a good feeling. And again, these are all anecdotes to modern life.
Yeah, they are. I like that cyborg thing. That's funny.
It's
right. It's
do you guys
right.
agree? Are we kind
it
of
trips me
quasi
out, right?
cyborgs?
I'm not going to hold my phone the same way again. We're what?
Well, the iPhone is made from constituent parts of the earth too. you know?
Everything is. Everything
Yeah.
is nature. This microphone is nature, right? But
Yeah.
technically.
Yeah. But, you know, it's the things that make us feel separate, and that sense of separation is the seed of the malaise we feel of depression, polarization. You know, so anything we can do to remind ourselves of what is, peeling back the layers of the onion to what is, which is that we are nature. And what beyond that, you know, what does that mean? We are rocks, as in physical beings. We are plants that need sunlight and oxygen and carbon dioxide. We're part of that system. And then we're animals, just like all the animals who want to kill things and fuck things and all the things and love things. And then we're like human beings who can be creative and crack jokes and then have brotherly love and sisterly love and cosmic consciousness. And then you can take mushrooms and be basically the universe. Like, all of that's happening in one being. And that is what's going on. And that's why it's so challenging and there's so much friction as a human being, because it's like, that's a tall order.
It is a tall order.
It's a tall fucking order. And so all the things that make us feel separate as isolated human beings, it's like you're just forgetting all the other octaves of what you are. And once you tap in through practice or through psychedelics or through ecstatic experiences or just through a good nap, you know, like, these are the times when it's like you remember. We talk about the idea of remembering, and it's not rocket science, but that is a practice. We talk about forgetting. You know, all of these things serve a purpose. The engine of forgetting is the real gift, because it allows you to remember. If there was no forgetting, there's nothing to remember. It's like that is the yin yang. That's the cycle.
I've never heard it said like that. I love that.
But you see, we're always
Yes,
focused
makes
on
sense.
like demonizing one side. It's like, but it's all together. And so if you realize, like,
yeah.
I'm always on this cycle, and that's not like this wheel of incarnation. It's a problem. It's like, that's what I am. That is God creating, you know, and that's beauty. That's all there is. That's all there is. And in that sense, why and how would I try to control that so much, as opposed to me witnessing it with the love of saying, I can hold that. I can hold the witnessing of what is happening, the happening of all of this.
Yeah.
The death, the horror, the love, the joy. It will all happen.
Yep.
And if you were God, if you were God, as God, you know, if you were sitting and you were all that is, you're like, and you were going to devise a creation to experience all that is and all of its polarity, so you know what the other thing is. Could you think of anything more grand and epic than this? Where you can look into the sky with optical things and it's like endless, like to the point of like you can't even understand the distances, to everything else happening, to the computers and like
Serial
all
killers?
the art, serial killers, and all of it.
That's the part I always try to make sense of.
But
I'm like,
it
how's that?
has to have everything.
Everything.
Like the fullness
It means
of the
everything.
spectrum of life.
Everything means everything.
why wouldn't it? You know,
Why wouldn't it?
because
Why
it gives you the ability to really choose.
Yes.
It gives you the full spectrum to
You can
choose
choose
with.
anything.
And then you have real freedom, because it's like, that's the soul's journey, is to be able to choose, in my view.
I love it. That is so beautiful. Well, I got word that we're supposed to wrap up really soon. I just want to say thanks for doing this just on a whim today and sitting down, because you are eloquent as hell. And I have
that's kind of
really
you, but-
enjoyed listening to you and talking to you. What a privilege. Thank you.
We're happy to be here.
Yes.
And excited to hang out with all you guys, and excited to do some music tomorrow. And what I like about music is that, you know, words are fun, but they're kind of music.
yeah.
But music,
I've been listening to Conversations with God, and they're talking about the feelings rather
Yeah.
than words, you know, and like,
yeah, and music only, it just goes right to generating feelings,
mm-hmm.
and across cultures, across socioeconomic ranges, and like, it doesn't even matter how much you understand about music or don't. We emotionally respond to it in the same way, and it's using like the language of the universe of like ratios, essentially like different tones, and it creates harmony.
Yes.
And then we take things and with time we create rhythm, and those two things, you put them together, and then you think that like, yes, there's infinite notes, but the piano, 12 notes in a scale. We've written every song we've ever heard with those 12 notes. I mean, how crazy is that?
It's crazy.
You know, and you're just like playing with these colors, that 12 colors in a way, and just, it's sort of like we forget what the soup is of music. It's the water that we're swimming in, and we're the fish. And you ask the fish, what is water? And they're like, I don't know. It's just it's music everywhere. I don't know. But it's more than that. Like it's sort of like the song of creation that we've been playing with for so long. And it's this celebration of creativity, and it can just take you places that, if you want to go there, that I think is so confounding and incredible. It's so amazing. And so the greatest gift anyone can give me is to give me their attention and vulnerability, and allowing me then to do the same. So I ask for that if anyone is attending tomorrow, and it'll help me like really like give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, as Justin told you earlier, we listen to you all the time. And so it does flow right on in all different ways. And thank you for that. Thank you for the gift of that. And it's the gift of your time today.
You're welcome.
Really
Thank
beautiful.
you.
I was going to open it up to questions, but I think we're out of time. So thank you very much to the technical team that was here in Costa
Yeah.
Rica, you guys, Jordan, Shane, I really appreciate
There
you
are
setting
worse
this
places to do a podcast.
up. I know. No, so
We can't upstage the sunset, so
no joke.
We
So
gotta go.
anyway, thank you guys so much. And I'm going to put links to everybody's stuff too in the show notes, so everybody can find out, you know, where we were to today. So thanks so much, you guys. And thank
everybody's links is going to show notes.
everybody here.
Everybody's
Send me your-
podcast, everybody's webpage.
It is a lot of podcasts here. I think everyone's got the end of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, Krishna.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thanks, guys. That's a wrap. Awesome.
Thank you so much to Krishna for being here. Thank you to you for being here. And if you want to find him, he's everywhere at eastforest.org online, or at East Forest on Instagram. And be sure to check out his wife too. She's amazing. She's at Marissa Rada Wepner. That's Marisa Radha Wppner on Instagram. And of course, you can find his music everywhere, Spotify, YouTube, all that. And his work with Ram Dass, which is powerful and moving. And I meditate to it on a regular basis. So big thanks. And just, I think that the message, you know, that I want to take away with this today is just loving it all. Loving it all. Like, I love that part of it. Loving it all, of ourselves, of life, because it is all God. It is all God. And if God is everything, can we love it all? Can we love it all? It's been a real thing for me to learn. And yeah, it's possible. It's absolutely possible. I think he's living proof. I think Ram Dass is living proof, or proof. He's whatever. Maybe he's still alive, right? However you consider that, for sure. Anyway, gigantic thanks. And thanks to you for being here today. Remember that you can subscribe to my newsletter. It's at amyedwards.com. And I do have free stuff coming out. I've been working on a voice meditation, and I'm really excited to share that. I did it for some people in Costa Rica, and I'm excited to just create one for free to give to you. And if you subscribe to my newsletter, you can always be up to date on that kind of stuff. Remember also to rate, review, subscribe, share. It all matters. I'm trying to get a whole bunch of 5-star ratings. So if you could just hit that, I think you just scroll down to the bottom. That would be fucking awesome. I would love that. So thank you so much. So thanks again to Krishna for being here. Remember that you can find all his work at eastforce.org. And I'm Amy Edwards. And until next week, these come out every Thursday. Please subscribe. And remember that you can go easier on yourself and love it all. Love it all. Love this whole thing that we got going on here. Whatever it is. You are God, and you are love, and you are loved, and I love you. So peace, love, light, health, wealth, beauty, all the rest of it, and mind-blowing goodness to you and yours. Till next time.
Thank you so much for listening. If you liked this show, please rate and review. It totally matters. And I encourage you to spread the love too and share this episode with a friend if you feel called. Find me and my newsletter sign up at amyedwards.com. And you can also connect with me on Instagram at RealAmyEdwards or in Clubhouse at Amy Edwards, or write to me. It's amy@amyedwards.com.